Before we dive into this cinematic journey of two lives that should never have crossed paths, take a second. Hit that like button and subscribe. You don't want to miss how a $4 billion misunderstanding turned into a love story too explosive for the headlines. The smell of stale coffee and industrial disinfectant clung to Adanna Eze's jacket. Her shoulders ached, her knees protested, and the fluorescent lights of Murtala Muhammad International Airport felt like needles stabbing her tired eyes. She had just pulled a 90-hour week at her tech repair shop in Aja, fighting Lagos traffic and dodgy parts suppliers, all to save enough to expand her business beyond the Lagos mainland. The ticket in her hand was her escape, a cheap flight to Accra, Ghana for a week of rest and market research. Gate D34, she muttered, adjusting the strap of her worn laptop bag. Her eyes were already blurring from exhaustion. It was an honest mistake, one born of sheer crippling fatigue. The uniformed man at the counter, rigid and impeccably dressed, had merely glanced at her ticket and passport, then waved her down the private boarding ramp. Adanna barely registered the sign above the velvet rope. Executive Departures, Akorede Capital. She saw an attendant holding a silver tray and a small gathering near a closed door. This must be the priority boarding section, she thought. Wow, they really roll out the carpet in Lagos for the business class. Ms. Eze, the attendant said smoothly, not quite meeting her eye. Welcome, Mr. Akorede is waiting. We are ready for immediate departure. Adanna blinked. Wait, I think there's an error. I am flying economy to Accra. Nonsense, the attendant smiled, a practiced blank gesture. Mr. Akorede is always punctual. Please, we must board. Before she could argue, her bag was gently lifted from her grasp and she was guided down the carpeted walkway. Her protests faded as she stepped onto the threshold of the aircraft. This was no commercial jet. The interior was a study in African luxury, executed with a minimalism that spoke of staggering cost. Cream leather seating, lacquered teak wood, and subtle, integrated lighting. A faint, expensive scent, sandalwood and citrus, filled the air. This was the flying equivalent of a VGC mansion. Adanna stood paralyzed, her worn denim jeans and simple black blouse feeling like a costume from another life. A man sat with his back to her, facing a large screen displaying what looked like real-time market data, overlaid on a map of the African continent. He wore a crisp white babariga that cost more than her shop's annual rent, but tailored so sharply it looked like high fashion, not traditional garb. The door hissed shut. The sound was deafeningly final. He turned. Her exhausted brain registered the most handsome face she had ever seen, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers and investment reports. Dark, intense eyes, high cheekbones, and a composure that seemed unbreakable. He was maybe 35, radiating a power that had nothing to do with muscle and everything to do with money. His eyes narrowed as they met hers, not with anger, but with an immediate, deep-seated suspicion. "You are not the consultant," he stated, his voice a low, resonant baritone that cut through the low hum of the engines. I am Adanna Eze," she stammered, clutching her useless boarding pass. "I think I took a wrong turn. I am terribly sorry, sir. I need to get off. I was heading to Accra." A corner of his mouth twitched, a minuscule expression that held both disbelief and a flicker of amusement. "Accra. My jet is cleared for a direct route to Lamu Island, Kenya." Lamu, the legendary coastal paradise of tranquility and exclusivity, a place people like her only saw in glossy holiday brochures. The engines roared to life, the private jet beginning its rapid taxi down the runway. Panic clawed at Adanna's throat. "I have to get off, please, my business. My passport is even for Ghana. I have a whole life in Lagos," she pleaded, scrambling towards the closed door. He didn't move. He simply watched her, his expression unreadable. "My dear Ms. Eze, at this precise moment, we are rolling. In T-minus 40 seconds, we will be airborne. And when Mr. Akorede's jet is airborne, there is no stopping it." "You are Mr. Akorede?" Damisa Akorede, he confirmed. The name was iconic. Everyone in the Nigerian tech finance world knew the name, the founder of Akorede Capital, a firm dealing in disruptive African logistics and fintech. He was, as the market said, worth about $4 billion. Adanna sank into the nearest luxurious seat, the reality hitting her with the force of a market crash. She was trapped, literally, in a world she didn't belong to. "What were you doing on a private ramp?" Damisa finally asked, leaning forward, his gaze piercing. "There are 4 security checkpoints. Who let you through?" Adanna swallowed, trying to find her voice. I was so tired. I think the attendant mistook me for someone else. They were expecting a Ms. Eze. Damisa ran a hand over his smooth jaw. They were expecting a Ms. Vanessa Eze, my new brand logistics consultant from New York. A woman I have never met, but whose profile was vetted over 3 months, and who I can assure you does not wear that. He gestured dismissively toward her functional, non-designer clothes. Pause right here. How does Damisa know so quickly that Adanna is not the person he's expecting? Is this a genuine mistake, or is there something far more calculated happening here? If you love cinematic mystery mixed with intense romance, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the shocking twist coming soon. "Look, Mr. Akorede," Adanna said, her professional pride finally overcoming her fear. "I'm sorry for the mistake, but you have my life in your hands. I run a business. I have family. You need to turn this plane around and disrupt the entire global itinerary of Akorede Capital." He shook his head slowly. "Not possible. We will land in Lamu. I will put you on the first commercial flight back to Lagos with a first-class upgrade and an apology check you won't refuse. Until then, you are my accidental guest." He motioned to the flight attendant. "Chimaka, a glass of water for Ms. Eze, and perhaps some fresh fruit." As the jet climbed into the sky, the familiar lights of Lagos shrinking beneath them, Adanna felt a strange dual sensation: the terror of being kidnapped by circumstances, and the utterly surreal comfort of floating above the clouds in a world only accessible to a privileged few. It was the ultimate fish-out-of-water scenario, and she was drowning in cashmere and gold-plated fixtures. What Adanna didn't know was that her exhaustion and her accidental presence had just short-circuited a highly elaborate multi-million-dollar test Damisa Akorede had set up, a test he needed to pass to secure his $4 billion empire. The jet surged through the clouds, finally leveling off with a gentle whoosh that belied the speed and expense of their journey. Below them, the vast, shimmering blue of the Atlantic Ocean stretched toward the horizon. Adanna, still seated rigidly in the cream leather chair, felt the adrenaline of the initial panic slowly give way to a cold, hard resolve. She had to get her life back. Damisa Akorede was no longer looking at market data. His full laser-like attention was fixed on her. The silence between them weighted with suspicion and the humming power of the airborne machine. He tapped an instruction into his tablet, ending his call with a brief, sharp, "Find the original Vanessa Eze, and do not alert the press. I handle this." "I'm running a full background check on you, Ms. Eze," Damisa said, his eyes scanning her face for any flicker of deceit. "Your ID says you run a successful small technology repair and logistics business in Lagos. It says you specialize in drone maintenance and supply chain software implementation for SMEs." Adanna stiffened, her pride pricked. "It's not just a small business, sir. It is a vital business. And the name is Adanna Eze. My identity is not complicated. I am simply tired, I was rushing, and your staff mixed me up with a Vanessa. My security team does not make such mistakes, especially not today. They are meticulous. Which leads me to this," Damisa said, holding up the tablet. The screen displayed a large image of a sleek, meticulously styled woman, Vanessa Eze, a model-turned-social media consultant known for her extravagant lifestyle and connections to certain wealthy circles. The resemblance seems non-existent. You, Miss Adanna Eze, look like a woman who hasn't slept in 3 days. She looks like a woman who hasn't seen a chore in her life. Adanna felt a surge of indignation. And that is my crime? That I work hard? That I have not yet achieved the kind of wealth that makes people blind to my tiredness? I am a woman of honor, Mr. Akorede. My father taught me that a good name is worth more than a full bank account. I have debts I am fighting to clear. I did not sneak onto your jet. I was ushered. Her unwavering intensity made Damisa pause. He saw the fierce honesty in her dark eyes, a directness he hadn't encountered in years. It was the same fire he recognized in the eyes of his own grandmother, a woman who built her fortune from scratch selling textiles in Kano Market. Debts, you say? Why are you still struggling if your business is so vital? He challenged, testing the tensile strength of her pride. Adanna's shoulders slumped slightly, the mention of her struggle pulling her back to earth. My father died in a tragic accident 2 years ago. Not only did I lose him, but I inherited a crippling debt he took on for a failed real estate venture. I could have sold his land in Enugu to pay it all, but that land is our heritage. My promise was to clear the debt with my own mind and hands. My little business is working towards that. This trip to Accra was to secure a new market. Now, thanks to this expensive mistake, I have jeopardized everything. If you're captivated by Adanna's determination and the reality of her struggle, give this video a thumbs up. It helps us bring more powerful, authentic African stories to life. Damisa leaned back, absorbing her words. Her story was heartbreaking, yet utterly grounded in the reality of many young professionals in Nigeria, fighting generational debt while upholding family honor. It was the complete antithesis of the world he inhabited, a world often filled with people seeking shortcuts. I understand the weight of responsibility, Damisa said, his voice softening, a rare crack in his iron facade. When I started Akorede Capital, it was just Mark and I, 2 boys with code and ambition. Now, I carry the future of over 50,000 families on my back. My decisions affect the price of goods in 6 countries. Every choice I make is scrutinized. That is the burden of $4 billion, Ms. Eze. It takes away your freedom and your privacy. He looked at her, his expression suddenly serious. This flight to Lamu, Adanna, it is not a holiday. It is a meeting that will decide the fate of a $500 million logistics contract, the largest Akorede Capital has ever pursued. This contract requires the highest level of trust and discretion. The consultant I was supposed to meet, Vanessa Eze, was hired because she has contacts with a rival conglomerate, a conglomerate that is actively trying to bankrupt me. Adanna frowned, confused. Why hire someone connected to your enemies? Because, Damisa explained, I needed someone to be my eyes and ears. I needed someone to find out which members of my own inner circle were being paid by this rival. This rival is ruthless. They have been undermining my reputation with false reports, threatening my investors, trying to make the Akorede tree fall. The Lamu meeting is a final test. I set a trap for the real Vanessa Eze, designed to expose her loyalty the moment she landed. The air pressure in the cabin seemed to drop. Adanna felt a chill that had nothing to do with altitude. And now you are here, Damisa continued, his dark eyes intense. An accidental variable, a hard-working woman who stumbled onto my jet because she was too exhausted to see a sign. You have no connection to my enemies. You have no interest in my money. You just want to clear your father's name. You, Adanna Eze, are the most unpredictable and ironically the most trustworthy person to have walked onto this plane today. He inhaled slowly, leaning closer. The moment we land in Lamu, I have powerful people waiting for me. They will be looking for the consultant. If I arrive alone, they will suspect the trap has been sprung and they will shut down the deal immediately, costing me a massive loss of credibility and potentially $500 million. My family's legacy, the jobs of my employees, all hang in the balance. Damisa extended a hand across the console, his gesture not romantic, but purely desperate and businesslike. Adanna Eze, I am offering you a new deal. I cannot send you back now. I need you to be my cover. For 24 hours you must pretend to be the missing Adanna Eze. You will be my right-hand consultant. All you have to do is nod when I speak, stand straight, and wear clothes that fit this world. In exchange, I will not only pay off every shilling of your father's debt, every last one of them, but I will also fund the expansion of your business across West Africa. All you lose is 24 hours of your time and your current vacation. The offer hung in the air, glittering and dangerous. It was a Faustian bargain wrapped in Nigerian gold. Her father's honor, her biggest burden, wiped clean. Her dreams fulfilled. The price? Her integrity and her life now linked to a billionaire's war. Adanna looked at the powerful, guarded man before her. She saw not the ruthless tycoon, but a man burdened by expectations, trapped by his own success, just as she was trapped by her family's struggles. This was not just a rich man asking for a favor. This was a modern-day chief asking for an alliance in a life-or-death battle for his kingdom. She had stumbled onto his jet. Now she realized she couldn't go home because her home was now the collateral. Adanna's head was spinning. The sheer magnitude of Damisa's offer, clearing her family's crippling debt, funding her business expansion, was enough to make her breath catch. But accepting it meant stepping onto a stage where the stakes were $500 million and the rivals were ruthless tycoons. It meant lying. It meant pretending to be someone who wore designer shoes, not comfortable work sneakers. She looked Damisa directly in the eye, ignoring the scent of money and power. "I will do it," Adanna stated, her voice steady and firm, rooted in the dignity of her late father. "But I don't want your charity. The payment for clearing my debt and funding my business will be one thing. I want a contract, a legal agreement drafted by my lawyer in Lagos and yours, detailing that my cooperation is a professional service, not a bribe or a romantic arrangement. I will not be your accessory, Mr. Akorede. I will be your temporary shield." A slow, genuine smile finally touched Damisa's lips, revealing a charm that was far more dangerous than his stern, professional demeanor. "Adanna Eze," he murmured, a hint of admiration in his tone. "You drive a hard, clean bargain. I'm not surprised the market check showed you are a successful businesswoman. You have integrity, even when airborne. You have yourself a deal. Legal contracts will be drafted by the time we land." He stood and extended his hand again, this time with true respect. Adanna took it. His grip was firm, warm, and unexpectedly reassuring. In that brief moment, the dynamic shifted from captor and captive to reluctant, high-stakes partners. Do you think Adanna is making the right choice, or is she flying too close to the sun? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button if you're rooting for her. The jet landed smoothly at a secluded private airstrip on Lamu Island, Kenya. Lamu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was known for its Swahili architecture, car-free streets, and deep cultural roots, a perfect, discreet location for a secret, high-stakes meeting between powerful African businessmen. A sleek black SUV awaited them, but before they could reach it, the flight attendant, Chiamaka, who had been listening intently to the exchange, approached with a garment bag. "Ms. Eze, Mr. Akorede requested this be prepared. Our luggage service retrieved it from the emergency wardrobe." Inside the bag was a perfectly tailored, creamy linen suit, designed with the elegant flowing lines of a modern Swahili kikoi wrap, but elevated with European tailoring. It was modest, expensive, and commanded respect. Next to it, a pair of subtle leather sandals, not the crippling heels of the real Adanna Eze. "We are in the land of the Swahili people now, Adanna," Damisa explained, a glint in his eye. "A simple dress code shows respect. You look like a CEO who understands culture, not a celebrity chasing trends. It suits your intelligence." Adanna changed quickly, feeling the difference in the fabric against her skin. It wasn't just clothing, it was armor. Stepping out of the bathroom, she moved with a new confidence. She wasn't just Adanna, the tired technician. She was Adanna, the formidable logistics consultant of Akorede Capital. They were driven not to a resort, but to a private dhow, a traditional wooden sailing boat, which ferried them across the calm, turquoise water to a smaller, fortified island. The structure awaiting them was a sprawling, ancient villa built from coral stone, its architecture a testament to centuries of trade and tradition. This was the residence of Chief Abubakar Zuru, the man holding the $500 million contract, known throughout Africa not just for his wealth, but for his unbending moral code and deep suspicion of modern westernized tycoons. Chief Zuru believes that success without heshima, respect or honor, is worthless, Damisa whispered to Adanna as they approached the villa's entrance, guarded by two impeccably dressed but silent men. He hates flashiness. He wants a partner with solid values and a long-term commitment to Africa. This is why he set a trap for me. He's testing my stability. Damisa paused, turning to face Adanna, his intensity returning. Listen carefully. The trap is simple. Chief Zuru's son, Tariq, is my direct business rival, working with the competitor who is trying to bankrupt me. Tariq is here. He knows the real Vanessa Eze is a social climber and a potential asset to his plan. He will watch you. If you show the slightest sign of the real Vanessa's greed or lack of substance, he will convince his father that I am unstable, corrupt, and unworthy of the contract. My job is to be the opposite, Adanna summarized, nodding. The anchor, the proof of your stability. Exactly. You are my new direction, Damisa confirmed. You are the proof that I am serious about authenticity. Act like the woman who fought for her father's legacy, because that is the truth. Act like the woman who chose Accra's market over Paris's luxury, because that is the truth. As they entered the cool, marble-floored courtyard, Adanna took a deep breath, clutching the small, worn pendant necklace she always wore, a simple silver charm gifted by her father. Waiting for them in a spacious reception hall filled with antique carved furniture and fine local art were Chief Zuru and his son Tariq. Chief Zuru was an imposing figure, impeccably dressed in a pristine white kanzu and kofia, radiating old money and quiet authority. Tariq, however, was dressed in a sharp modern European suit, a stark visual contrast to his father, and his eyes, when they landed on Adanna, were instantly cold and calculating. Damisa, Chief Zuru said, his voice deep and measured, rising to shake hands. Welcome. We were expecting your consultant. We heard there was an unexpected delay. Damisa smiled, pulling Adanna gently but firmly to his side, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back, a gesture that was both intimate and possessive. Chief, no delay at all, only an upgrade, Damisa replied, his voice brimming with confidence. This is not the consultant you read about. This is Adanna Eze, my new head of strategic operations. She is Nigerian, she is brilliant, and she is the future of Akorede capital. We flew directly from Lagos. Tariq stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he scrutinized Adanna's face, searching for the familiar signs of the original Vanessa. He offered his hand, his grip slightly too hard. Adanna Eze. A pleasure. I am Tariq Zuru. I understand you are the expert in logistics efficiency. What exactly were the metrics of your recent Accra deployment? It was a sharp, direct challenge meant to trip up an unprepared consultant. Adanna met his gaze, her heart pounding, but her voice stayed calm and steady. She had to prove that the billionaire had chosen substance over spectacle. Adanna met Tariq's calculating stare without flinching. Her mind, though jet-lagged, was sharp with the precision of someone who fixes complex, broken things under pressure. She couldn't afford to guess what the real Vanessa Eze's fictional metrics were. She had to use her own truth. Mr. Zuru, Adanna began, her voice calm and measured, referencing her actual expertise. The most pressing logistical metrics are always found at the choke points, not the destination. I was headed to Ghana to explore cross-border supply chain integration. Yes, but my core expertise is micro-logistics optimization in congested urban environments like Lagos. She leaned forward slightly, adopting the confident, didactic tone she used, when explaining complex software solutions to skeptical clients. If you want metrics, consider this. I reduced the average delivery time for 5 key Lagos mainland SMEs by 17% in the last quarter, not through massive capital injection, but by redesigning their fleet routing using proprietary predictive software. Accra's deployment, in the end, is about scale, but true efficiency, the kind that saves the $500 million you're discussing, is about patience and optimization at the granular level. Damisa, standing beside her, felt a rush of astonished admiration. She hadn't faltered. She hadn't guessed. She had redirected the conversation from a generalized corporate fantasy to a grounded, impressive reality. He placed his hand a little firmer on her back, a gesture of quiet endorsement that felt like fire against the linen suit. Chief Zuru, watching from his seat, stroked his fine white beard. His eyes, though old, missed nothing. Tariq, however, only grew colder. Impressive rhetoric, Ms. Eze, optimization software. But that is technical. This deal, as my father knows, is about trust. It's about commitment. And frankly, Mr. Akorede, Tariq turned his focus entirely to Damisa, ignoring Adanna. Bringing a new head of strategic operations to a meeting of this magnitude on such short notice, after weeks of vetting the previous one, suggests a profound level of instability. Is this consultant not the socialite who was recently photographed at the Dubai races? The one your company was using to launch your social engagement initiative? Damisa's face was stone. This was the moment of exposure. If he lied now, Chief Zuru would smell the fear. Tariq, you confuse speculation with strategy, Damisa stated calmly. Yes, the previous consultant was vetted for a specific marketing purpose, but as I told your father, Adanna is the upgrade. She is not about the races or the glamour. She is about the bottom line and the future of African industry. He paused, then turned to Adanna, his public gaze incredibly intense. Adanna Eze is the most honest partner I have ever worked with. She is not easily impressed. She is not easily bought. And frankly, she is the only person who can keep me grounded in the reality of what truly matters. Damisa's words were meant for Chief Zuru, but the vulnerability in his tone was directed entirely at Adanna. It was a truth spoken in the middle of a lie, and it caused a sudden, almost electric jolt between them. Adanna felt her professional resolve falter beneath the weight of his personal declaration. If Damisa's public defense of Adanna just gave you chills, you have to subscribe right now. This man is fighting for more than money, he's fighting for his soul. Tariq, sensing the shift in dynamics, pressed harder, now hitting below the belt, aiming for the cultural core. A grounded partner, you say? Mr. Akorede, with all due respect, your family line is one of Nigeria's most prestigious. Before entering such a critical business alliance, we must ensure your stability is absolute. We vet family. Tell me, Ms. Eze. Tariq smiled, a predatory gleam in his eyes. Which prominent Lagos family do you descend from? What is your Eze lineage? Where is your father's land? In this world, legacy is currency. This was the deadliest question. Adanna had no prestigious family. She had debts and a promise. Her face went pale, but her spine remained straight. She looked at the chief, then at Damisa, who gave her a single, almost imperceptible nod, a silent command to tell the dangerous truth. Adanna took a deep breath. She spoke directly to Chief Zuru, using the reverence of the old Swahili culture they were standing in. Chief Zuru, I honor your question. My family is not defined by prestige, but by honor and struggle. My father's land is in Enugu, a humble piece of ancestral ground he inherited. When he died, he left me not wealth, but crippling debt from a failed business. My family name is not known in your high circles, but it is untainted in the Aja market. She touched the silver pendant around her neck, her true simple talisman. Mr. Akorede's wealth is immeasurable. My wealth is this, my word. I chose to use my mind, my business, to pay the debt shilling by shilling, rather than sell my family's heritage to pay it all immediately. If Mr. Akorede is looking for a partner grounded in the integrity of hard work, then I am that woman. Because I understand that the house that stands on a shaky foundation, however high, will fall. A heavy silence descended upon the room. Tariq's smug expression had vanished. Damisa looked utterly captivated, his gaze burning with a mixture of relief and raw emotion. He had offered her a shortcut. He had offered to wipe out the debt immediately, yet she had chosen to highlight her struggle and her commitment to process. Chief Zuru broke the silence with a single resonant word in Swahili. Heshima. Respect. The daughter of the struggle often holds the deepest wisdom, the chief mused, looking directly at Damisa. You were right, Damisa, she is indeed an upgrade. We will continue this discussion in my study in 1 hour. Tariq, please show Ms. Eze to the garden area. Damisa, come with me. Tariq's face was a mask of thwarted malice. He had failed to discredit them. As Damisa was led away by Chief Zuru, Adanna gathered her composure. She knew that the true battle, the business negotiations, was just beginning. The garden, Ms. Eze, Tariq said curtly, gesturing toward a sun-drenched courtyard filled with bougainvillea and the quiet murmur of the Indian Ocean. They walked in silence. Tariq stopped by a stone well, turning to her with a predatory intensity that made the earlier business challenge look like child's play. You are very convincing, Ms. Eze. You play the role of the honorable, hard-working woman well, but I run intelligence on everyone who crosses my path. The real Adanna Eze was headed to Ghana on a commercial ticket worth 80,000 naira. The woman who stands before me now is wearing $5,000 worth of Kenyan linen and speaks of debt. I know the Lagos real estate market. I know the value of your father's land. Tariq's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You spoke of honor. Tell me, Adanna, what did you really give Damisa Akorede in exchange for the promise to clear your father's debt? Was it your mind? Or was it something more personal? I will find the truth, and when I do, I will not only destroy Damisa's reputation, but yours as well. You can't go home until I know exactly what game you are playing. As he finished speaking, Tariq reached out, not to grab her, but to gently touch the silver pendant on her neck. He gave it a slight, almost imperceptible tug before walking away, leaving Adanna alone with the terrifying realization that her struggle for honor was now entangled in a web of billion-dollar betrayal. The pendant felt cold, heavy, and exposed. Tariq's subtle threat, delivered with the chilling precision of a financier and a predator, left Adanna trembling by the ancient stone well. He hadn't just questioned her business acumen, he had questioned her personal price. The simple touch on her father's pendant felt like an invasion, a physical manifestation of the way this world tried to corrupt everything it touched. She retreated, finding solace in the secluded garden, the scent of jasmine and the distant rhythm of the Indian Ocean working to calm her racing heart. She realized her 24 hours of professional service were now 24 hours of intense psychological warfare. Tariq wouldn't stop until he exposed the mistake that brought her here, convinced she was either a fool or Damisa's mistress, or both. Exactly 45 minutes later, Damisa found her. He looked less formidable, less the polished CEO, and more the battle-worn commander. He dismissed the silent attendant with a look and sat beside her on the stone bench. Tariq came out of the meeting spitting fire, Damisa noted, his voice low. You neutralized his opening attack brilliantly, Adanna. You spoke about integrity and legacy in a way that resonated with Chief Zuru's old world values. You are the anchor I didn't know I needed. Tariq also cornered me, Adanna admitted, turning the silver pendant nervously between her fingers. He's suspicious. He knows enough about Lagos to know my family name isn't on any elite list. He suggested my cooperation was a personal exchange. He touched my pendant, Mr. Akorede. He threatened to expose us both. Damisa's composure cracked. His jaw tightened instantly, and his eyes flashed with a deep, protective anger. He touched you? Tariq Zuru has been trying to discredit me for a year, undermining every deal. He will stop at nothing to gain the influence the chief holds. He wants this contract and he wants my destruction. Then we have to be perfect, Adanna insisted. I need to know everything. Why is this contract so important that you would risk everything, including involving a stranger, to secure it? Damisa sighed, running a hand over the back of his neck. This was the first time he had fully opened his guarded life to anyone in months. The $500 million isn't just revenue, Adanna, it's leverage. A year ago, I lost my business partner and best friend, Mark. It was sudden, and it left a vacuum at the heart of Akorede Technologies. Tariq's consortium sensed weakness and started a hostile takeover bid, betting that without Mark's visionary leadership, my company would crumble. This logistics deal secures a long-term future in a sector Mark was passionate about. If I secure this, I can stave off the takeover, stabilize the company's value, and honor Mark's legacy. If I fail, I lose everything we built. The $4 billion is just a number. The legacy is everything. His confession resonated deeply with Adanna's own struggle to uphold her father's legacy. They were two people fighting the same battle, one with billions, the other with borrowed time and debt. If you appreciate the vulnerability and honesty Damisa just shared, show your support for this incredible story by tapping that subscribe button. So the lesson here, Adanna mused, adopting the serious tone of a modern-day oracle, is that wealth is not protection, it is a target. Precisely, Damisa nodded, and today you are the highest stakes target. Then we need to be convincing, Adanna decided, rising. Show me how a billionaire and his head of strategic operations behave when they are alone in Lamu. We need to rehearse the intimacy of true partnership. Show me the man who trusts me with his empire. Damisa rose too, surprised by her sudden boldness. Rehearse? Yes, she said, stepping toward him, deliberately invading his personal space. Tariq will be watching us constantly. He'll look for any slip, a lack of shared history, a stiffness in our connection. We need to look like we know each other's burdens. Tell me about your childhood in Lagos. Tell me about Mark's favorite joke. Treat me like the partner you need. Damisa felt a strange, thrilling warmth spread through him. No one in his world would ever suggest rehearsing intimacy. They would simply demand it. He stepped closer, closing the small gap between them, and lowered his voice. Mark's favorite joke was about an economist, a lawyer, and an accountant who walk into a bar. For the next hour, they didn't discuss spreadsheets or hostile bids. They discussed childhoods, Adanna's running barefoot through the dusty compounds of Enugu, Damisa's privileged but lonely upbringing in the guarded high-rises of Ikoyi. They talked about the crushing weight of their father's legacies, their shared dedication to integrity, and the exhaustion of carrying impossible burdens. Damisa let down his guard, Adanna forgot her debt, and the line between professional shield and genuine connection blurred completely. When Damisa received the summons to the next meeting, he stood. He didn't just offer his hand. He cupped Adanna's cheek with his palm, his thumb tracing a gentle line beneath her eye. "You look less tired now," he murmured. "You fit here, Adanna, more than anyone I've ever brought to this island." Adanna leaned into the warmth of his touch, her heart hammering not from fear of Tariq, but from the realization that this man, the object of global financial ambition, was seeing her, the true, tired, striving Adanna Eze, for the first time. "Let's go secure your legacy, Damisa," she whispered, her resolve renewed. The final meeting was intense, lasting late into the humid Kenyan night. Damisa and Chief Zuru debated logistics, finance structures, and long-term commitment. Adanna sat beside Damisa, silent and poised, every inch the focused, intelligent strategist. Tariq, seated across from them, launched several subtle, veiled attacks, questioning Damisa's emotional stability, his recent reclusiveness, and the sudden shift in his inner circle. Each time, Adanna didn't speak the answer, she embodied it. When Damisa faltered under personal pressure, Adanna would subtly place her hand on his forearm, a small, comforting pressure that spoke volumes of shared confidence and private support. Finally, Chief Zuru, tired but satisfied, delivered his verdict. He looked not at Damisa but at Adanna. Ms. Eze, your commitment to your family's history, even in debt, speaks louder than 1,000 bank statements. Damisa, the chief addressed the billionaire, you have found a worthy partner, one who clearly reminds you that the greatest assets are built on earth, not in the clouds. I see stability. I see foresight. We proceed with the alliance. The contract was secured. The $500 million was safe. Tariq's plot had failed, and his face, stripped of its arrogance, was a picture of cold fury. Later, as they stood on the dock waiting for the private boat to return to the mainland, Tariq stalked up to Adanna. You are either the best actress I have ever met or the biggest fool, Tariq hissed, his face close to hers. He bought you. He bought your honor. You walk away with a clear debt, but you carry his dirty secret. You still can't go home, Adanna Eze, because when I expose the fact that the real consultant was a socialite and you were a replacement, Damisa will throw you to the wolves to save his name, and you will be left with nothing but a worthless contract. He spun away, leaving Adanna cold. He was right. Damisa had secured the contract, but her part of the deal was based on a lie that only 2 other people knew. She had secured the debt relief, but she had lost her safe exit. The contract was signed, but the price of her truth was still pending. The dhow glided silently back across the dark waters, carrying Damisa and Adanna away from the triumphant negotiations and back toward the private airstrip. The air was thick with the scent of salt and the heavy weight of their shared secret. Damisa was elated, his eyes shining with relief and victory, but Adanna was consumed by Tariq's parting threat. They were in the back seat of the luxurious SUV, heading toward the jet. Adanna finally broke the silence. Tariq is right, Damisa, she said, her voice strained. We secured your $500 million legacy, but my truth is now your biggest weakness. What happens when he reveals I'm not the vetted consultant, but a random woman who was too tired to read a sign? He will accuse you of deception. Chief Zuru will revoke the contract, citing lack of integrity. You'll lose everything, and I'll be known as the woman who was bought. Damisa reached across the wide console and took her hand, his thumb tracing the worn silver pendant. He held her gaze, his victory tempered by the sudden gravity of her fear. You're right. We can't rely on a lie anymore, Damisa conceded. But I cannot expose the full story now. It would reveal the extent of the security breach and the trap I set for Vanessa. My investors would see weakness, and Tariq would win his hostile takeover bid immediately. Then what do we do? Adanna asked, pulling her hand away gently, needing space to think. I can't continue this deception. I came here for honor, and I will not become a symbol of your lack of it. I know, Damisa said, his eyes darkening with contemplation. I have to send you back to Lagos immediately, but I need a plan to secure your exit and ensure our partnership survives the inevitable exposure. He looked at her, his expression intense and sincere. Adanna, during the past 24 hours, you proved to be the most authentic, grounded, and strategic mind I've encountered in years. You spoke of integrity when I was only focused on survival. I realized that the life I built, the $4 billion empire, is empty if I can't share it with someone who reminds me of where I came from. Someone like you. Don't let this moment pass you by. If you've ever wondered if true love can exist in the world of billionaires and high-stakes drama, hit the like button and let us know. Adanna's heart pounded, blurring the line between the professional deal they made and the undeniable connection they had forged. Damisa, you are confusing relief with reality. You are grateful that I saved your empire. That is not love. It's the foundation of something real, he countered, his voice firm. I don't need an accessory, Adanna. I need an equal, I need the woman who will look me in the eye and speak the truth even when my jet is taking off." He pulled out his tablet and brought up a legal document. "The lawyer has finalized your contract. All your father's debts are cleared and the funding for your expansion is secured. That part of the deal is complete, but I have added a codicil, a strategic partnership offer." The document was an offer of a legitimate, high-level role within Akorede Capital, establishing Adanna Eze not as an accessory, but as the new head of logistics strategy for West Africa, complete with a salary and equity. It was a role based entirely on her skill and the genius she had shown in Lamu. "This legitimizes your sudden appearance," Damisa explained. "It gives you a title and a reason for being on my jet that is based on your merit, not deceit. It buys us time, but to make this plausible, there's one more step we must take before you land in Lagos." Adanna looked at the equity offer, a life-changing sum, then back at Damisa. "What step?" "Tariq's accusation that you are my mistress is the most dangerous one because it's the hardest to prove false in our society. The Nigerian business world is obsessed with power and romance. If he announces I brought an unknown woman to Lamu and gave her a high-level position, the rumors will destroy your credibility and still harm my reputation." Damisa took both her hands, his eyes pleading for understanding. "We have to give them a counter-narrative that is so powerful, so culturally undeniable, that it silences all gossip and proves to Chief Zuru that my commitment to you is permanent." Adanna looked at the seriousness in his eyes, the gravity of his family's legacy resting on his shoulders. "What are you proposing, Damisa?" He took the silver pendant from her neck, holding it between his thumb and forefinger, examining the simple, honest craftsmanship. "When we land in Lagos, I want the press, who will undoubtedly be there waiting for the real consultant, to see a different story. I want them to see honor." He pulled out a small velvet box from the inside pocket of his babariga. It contained a ring that glittered in the subdued cabin light, a modest but undeniably stunning antique gold ring, set with a single, perfectly cut sapphire. It was a ring of promise, not ostentation. "This is my mother's promise ring, passed down through 3 generations of my family, a symbol of a commitment to build a legacy, not simply inherit one. When we step off this plane, Adanna, you must be seen wearing it. We will announce that we are engaged to be married." Adanna gasped, her mind reeling. An engagement. It was the ultimate culturally authentic shield against the rumors of a fling. It was the only move that guaranteed her safety, his empire, and the silencing of Tariq's malice. But it was also the ultimate risk, merging her modest reality with his blinding, complex world forever. "You can't be serious," Adanna whispered, her voice laced with awe and terror. "Damisa, this isn't a game. This is marriage. We've known each other for 1 day." "I know," Damisa acknowledged, his grip on her hand tightening. "But our 1 day has contained more honesty, more crisis, and more truth than some people find in a lifetime. This is the truth, Adanna. I need you, and I am choosing you. You spoke of finding an anchor. I am asking you to be mine. This is our only safe exit from the lie." He opened the box fully, revealing the sapphire ring next to the simple silver pendant. "Say yes, Adanna. Let's trade one risky decision for one monumental truth." The sapphire ring glittered, reflecting the desperate hope and crushing fear in Adanna's eyes. This wasn't a proposal born of whispered sweet nothings. It was a shield, a counter-offensive, and a life sentence, all in one antique gold band. Adanna felt the weight of her father's legacy, the clear debt, the secure business future, and the immense, terrifying power of Damisa's world pressing down on her. She had come to save her family name from debt. Now she was being asked to risk her heart for a $4 billion empire. "An engagement is the ultimate promise, Damisa," Adanna said, her voice barely a breath. "It's forever. We don't know each other. You don't know if I burn the toast or sing off-key. I don't know if you're actually a gentleman or just a wounded businessman." "Then we will learn, Adanna," Damisa insisted, his eyes unwavering. "We have already shared our deepest fears and our greatest failures in one day. That is a truer foundation than most marriages I know in my world, which are all strategic mergers. This is a strategic alliance to save two legacies, yours and mine. But it comes with an unscripted ending. I am terrified, Adanna, but I am all in. Are you?" He lifted the ring, waiting for her decision. The silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the jet and the frantic beating of her heart. She looked at her father's simple silver pendant, then at the elegant sapphire. She thought of Tariq Zuru, waiting to devour them both. She thought of her tireless work, the exhaustion, and the dream of rising above her debts. "Yes," Adanna finally whispered, the word thick with both fear and a surprising thrill. "Yes, Damisa, but understand this. I don't wear this ring as a symbol of your ownership. I wear it as a sign of my commitment to the alliance, to our truth, and to the equity you promised. This is a partnership, not a rescue." A wave of profound relief washed over Damisa's face. He didn't just place the ring on her finger. He gently slid it onto her ring finger, placing a soft, reverent kiss upon her hand afterward. The cool metal felt heavy and real. "Welcome to my life, Adanna Eze," Damisa murmured, his voice husky with emotion. "And welcome to the chaos. Now we prepare for the press." The homecoming and the reveal. The private jet landed at a discreet executive terminal in Lagos under the cover of the late afternoon sun. As predicted, the press had been alerted. Tariq's spies had ensured that. The moment the main door opened, blinding flashes of light erupted outside. Damisa straightened his babariga, his CEO mask firmly in place. "Remember the role," he instructed Adanna. "Poise, confidence, and keep your focus on me." Adanna took a deep breath, clutching the lapels of her elegant linen suit. She looked down at the sapphire ring, took strength from its weight, and stepped out onto the ramp. The scene below was electric, a scrum of reporters, camera crews, and even a few celebrity bloggers. The initial murmurs of confusion quickly turned into a roar when they saw Adanna. She was clearly not the famous socialite, Vanessa Eze, they had been expecting. Damisa descended the stairs with an aura of ownership and protection, his hand placed firmly on Adanna's waist. He walked directly to the press line, cutting off their questions with a single, commanding gesture. "I know why you are all here," Damisa announced, his voice carrying over the crowd. "You were expecting an announcement regarding a logistics consultant. You will get one, but it is far greater than business." He turned, smiling down at Adanna with a warmth that seemed utterly genuine. He took her left hand and raised it, flashing the sapphire ring to the cameras. "This is Adanna Eze, my new head of logistics strategy, and more importantly, the woman who has agreed to be my wife. We are officially engaged. This partnership is sealed by honor, family legacy, and genuine love. We met in Lagos and formalized our alliance on Lamu Island. The speculation ends today. The future of Akorede capital is built on integrity, and Adanna is the living proof." The reaction was pandemonium. Cameras flashed rapidly. Reporters shouted over each other. The headlines were immediately written: "Billionaire tycoon snub socialite for woman of integrity. Damisa Akorede engaged." Adanna looked at the sea of faces, realizing that her life had been ripped from the quiet anonymity of Aja and placed under the harsh, global spotlight of a $4 billion engagement. The face-off. Later that evening, in Damisa's penthouse high above Ikoyi, the reality of their hastily constructed fiction began to settle. The apartment was a palace of minimalist glass and African art, utterly overwhelming. Adanna, still reeling from the spectacle, faced Damisa. "The press conference worked. Tariq is neutralized for now. But you exposed me to the world, Damisa, and you gave them a lie." "It's not a lie," Damisa countered, his voice suddenly raw and serious. He stepped toward her, taking her hands. "I meant what I said. You are the woman of integrity I've been searching for." You saved my company, but more importantly, you reminded me of my own principles. I have fallen for the woman who wasn't impressed by the jet, but by the chance to honor her father. And I am terrified, Adanna admitted, the facade cracking. I don't belong here. I am the woman who repairs drones. I am not the partner for a billionaire. I cannot fake this life. This is the ultimate clash of worlds. If you're hooked on this intense emotional drama, drop a comment below with your prediction for their marriage. Before Damisa could respond, his secure phone buzzed. It was a call from Tariq Zuru, who had been watching the broadcast. Damisa put the call on speaker. "You're a genius, Damisa," Tariq's voice sneered through the speaker. "A desperate genius, an engagement, a perfect shield. But this is not over. I know she's a cover. I know you cleared her family's crippling debt. I will expose the fact that this is a transaction, not a truth. And when Chief Zuru finds out you bought a wife to save your company, he will bury you both." Damisa's eyes met Adanna's. He spoke into the phone with a deadly calm that Adanna had never heard before. "Tariq, this isn't a transaction. It's an alliance of values. You look for weakness in money. I look for strength in character. Adanna's debt was cleared because that was her worth. And now she has equity in Akorede capital because that is her value. You want to expose a lie? Fine. But you will be exposing a truth. The truth that I chose integrity over spectacle, and that I chose a woman who is my equal, not my conquest." Damisa hung up, the silence after Tariq's defeated rage echoing in the vast penthouse. "The lesson, Adanna," Damisa said, holding her hands tightly, "is the wisdom of the elders. The truth that is strategically timed often hits harder than a spontaneous lie. We will live this engagement, not fake it. We will show the world and Tariq that our alliance is real." Adanna looked at the ring, the tangible proof of her impossible life. She realized the moral of this modern African folktale. True legacy isn't inherited. It's earned through the honor of one's choices. She was stuck, yes, trapped in a life she hadn't chosen. But she wasn't alone. She was facing the world with a man who needed her authenticity more than his billions. She was a simple nurse-turned-technician, now the fiancée of one of Africa's most powerful men. "Then let's build a life, Damisa," Adanna said, her fear giving way to a fierce, undeniable resolve. "Let's build a foundation so strong that when Tariq tries to push it, the entire Akorede empire doesn't fall, it only grows taller." Damisa smiled, a deep, genuine smile that reached his eyes. He leaned down and kissed her, a long, profound kiss that sealed the impossible promise. The accidental boarding was over. The unscripted life had begun. The nurse who stumbled onto a private jet was now the future of a $4 billion legacy, and she couldn't go home because home was now right here.